I think we covered all the major details, technical requirements of setting up ETS. We talk about cap setting, scope, decide the scope, cap setting, allocation, MRV, market trading, and stakeholder engagement. That's almost everything about ETS. And this last section is talking about how to integrate ETS into the more international context. Actually, it's a quite new topic, and I think it's just happening, starting. Especially, we have a Paris Agreement now, Article 6. Just have a lot of details confirmed. People right now start to do Article 6 trading, and under that, there are a lot of new things happening. But all of this is a little bit new to ETS, and especially for you guys, the Thai ETS is still in design and is not implemented yet. So in this slides, I will introduce some concepts and some topics to consider if two ETS link together. How do they calculate their emission and their allowance under Paris Agreement? But I will not go into the technical details. It's a very technical topic. I will not go into the details, but just let you realize what needs to happen. So, is it the old? I think it's the old version. I have some updates. Yeah, so basically, right now we have Paris Agreement. Every country has its own climate target. We call it NDC, and this determined by each country, and it means everyone has a climate goal. And now there are some linkings happening, like the EU ETS linked to Switzerland ETS, and now UK ETS is talking to EU and linked together, and California links to Quebec. So I also discussed with some of you during the breaks, saying, is it possible that China linked to EU? Is it possible that Thailand linked to EU or Thailand links to China? So yeah, there are a lot of linking discussion happening. Some of them are implementing. But under Paris Agreement, if we purchase some allowance to another country, for example, that's already happening in the reduction credits. So Thailand sells some credits to Switzerland, for example, that the Thailand must increase its emission, and Switzerland can reduce its emission. That's to avoid double counting. And if it's a two ETS, it also has the same impact. So how to calculate the situation, how to calculate the allowance and the impact to the NDC under this situation, ICAP developed a report to discuss this contact, and we still don't have it now, which is okay. Yeah, so for example, EU already announced it can use some international credits to achieve its NDC to 2040, and is discussing maybe some of these credits may be used in EU ETS. And EU also linked to Switzerland, and so EU and Switzerland is discussing how to align when they have this trading, how to align, how to reflect this in the NDC. But it's difficult because they're not trading reduction. So it's easier in Article 6.2, 6.4 for the reduction projects. You reduce some emission, and then the other people, when they buy it, the reduce goes to the buyer, and the seller increase the emission. It's easy to understand. I know. I see them updating. Yeah. But when the two countries trade an allowance, they are trading the rights to emit. It's not an actual emission. It's not an actual reduction. So, how to estimate? There's no baseline because they are already trading. We don't have baseline saying without trading how much they will emit. There's no baseline for ETS compliance market. And so we need to develop some estimation to calculate this reduction or this this transition. Okay, I already finished the background, so right now I really need the slides to tell you some methods.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Well, but it's still a little bit far away from Thailand since you don't have ETS yet, so don't worry. Yeah, maybe when you start the ETS, you will become more important. Yeah, for example, if two countries, their actual emission is less than their cap, it's not necessary to you can ignore the transition between the two the two system, because the actual emission, both of them, they are less than their cap. It doesn't exceed the cap, so it doesn't emit more than expected. So you can see it as achieved. No need to transit. That's the simple way. But if they emit more, one way is to see if, so for example, UK and EU link together. Just an example, they're still negotiating. It's not a final decision yet. But for example, they link together. Some EU company, they buy allowance from the UK market, but they also sell the EU allowance to the UK market. So we can calculate the net trade. Yeah. So that maybe we combine all the tradings. We see in net, UK company buys 1 million ton from EU. Then we can adjust based on this 1 million ton. But it's also not the perfect solution because it doesn't reflect the time of this allowance. They may buy the allowance from EU market, but this allowance may generate from different years, from 2017, from 2022, from 2026. Yeah, this is all possible. So a more detailed way would be to also to trace these detailed years when this allowance were used. Okay, do we get it? Oh, yeah, finally. Thank you. And how should I? Yeah, Harry Potter. Yeah. No. Who's the guy in Harry Potter's class always can fail cannot learn the magic? Yeah. In the report, there are several ways to discuss how to estimate. And we also have a proposal saying that we can use some simplified way to calculate. And right now, California and Quebec, they are using some share to estimate. Like according to the size of the carbon market, they will use some share to determine how to calculate the transition in their national, regional climate target. So also no need to go into details. You can see the slides. You can find the report in the ICAP website. Very technical. We don't go into details. And another thing that we need to consider is in Article 6, when the country, they sell the allowance, they sell the credits, they need to collect some money just to to do some purpose and to support climate action. Not 100% directly goes to the project owner, but the government can collect money and UNFCCC can also. Oh yeah, it's okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, we talk about NDC and how they need to adjust after the trading, and then we talk about the challenge, and then these are 4 approaches to estimate. So we talk about A is the simple way. If they don't emit more than the cap, we can simply don't change it, or we can do the net transfer of allowance considering the buying and selling. That's a little bit clear, but it doesn't consider the time. And then we can see, we can also see the surrender of allowance. To see the people when they surrender their allowance for compliance, we check the allowance, which part is from UK, which part is from EU, and then do the net adjustment. Yeah. And then the other one is to combine information on the transfer and surrender of allowance, very detailed into years. There's a different approach. And they all have their advantage or disadvantage. Maybe simple but not accurate, or accurate but too difficult to do it. Yeah. So we have some recommendation. Use approach C, but it depends the agreement between 2 governments. Maybe Irini will discuss EU's experience or EU's view on this topic. And then, there are also challenge for how to transit to NDC, because we have tradings every year. They keep trading every year, but NDC is for 1 year. We have the goal for 2030, we have the goal for 2035. So they can do some tricks to maybe they postpone the trading, or they do the trading earlier to get the number for that single year for the NDC. The government is able to do it with this rule. So it's also important to develop a trajectory to the NDC. Like right now we have the goal for 2030, but if 2 system links together, we need to do this adjustment every year. That we should break down this NDC into every year. That can avoid people cheating. Only use this trading linking system. Yeah. And then I said that there's some support. So in Article 6, this international trading should provide some support to the climate change action, maybe abatement or adaptation. So there are some potential options for ETS linking. They can use some share to contribute or set up some funds towards adaptation contribution, or just make a fixed number to this fund for that, because in the credits trade, someone earns money, the seller earns money. They can, it's clear that the government and UN can charge from that transition. But in ETS linking, both sides are buying, selling towards each other. So it's not easy to say which one should pay for that under Article 6. Yeah, so it's a very new area. No one really have a clear rule on that, but we suggest if two ETS link together under Article 6, do all this adjustment, they should also prepare some kind of fund to support international mitigation and adaptation. Yeah, no details on this, but also there are some reporting obligations under Article 6, there should be annual report, regularly report, and if two systems link together, they should also consider to include this information in their Article 6 reporting obligation. So also when previously in the Kyoto Protocol time, ETS linked together is only ETS. But now under Paris Agreement, it relates to more topics, it relates to your how can you achieve your NDC, what is the impact of this trading to your NDC. Right now everyone has his own NDC, so it matters more, and we need to consider how to calculate, how to trace, how to calculate, how to contribute to global effort, how to do the daily reporting and management. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay มีคำถามไหมครับ แต่ตัว PowerPoint ชุดใหม่เปลี่ยนแล้วใช่ไหมฮะใน Google Drive เราเป็นตอนนี้ถ้าเข้าไปตอนนี้มันจะเป็นชุดใหม่แล้วนะฮะถ้าท่านเข้าตั้งแต่ก่อนเริ่มก็จะเป็นชุดเก่าอยู่ ทางคนจัดก็เครียดเหมือนกันโอเคถัดไป
Yeah, I think now Irene is with us again. She's been waiting very patiently as we encountered those issues. So yeah, we're very happy to have you with us again, Irene. I think next time, hopefully you'll be able to join us in person. So I know it's not always easy to coordinate these things.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Irene.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see your slide.
Excellent. Because again, either I can see you or my slides. Again, I'm really sorry for this. I don't know how to solve this. I'm not good in the Anyway, so am I the last one? I think I'm the last one that I'm presenting today. I will not.
A speaker of the training, Irene.
Yes, you are the last one. We have the honor to have you as our last lecturer.
Thank you very much for this. Well, it's a difficult task because I would like to not to take up more of your time. I will just start with a very simple introduction that it was difficult for me to understand what I should put in this presentation. So bear with me. If you have questions, I can reply. Please, you can ask me everything you want under this international carbon market integration session. As Jipin mentioned previously, it's something new. So I would like to start first with the governance. And of course, as I have been working on EU ETS for so many years with the governance of the EU ETS, and then move a little bit the discussion to the integration. So So I would like to mention how is the governance of the EU ETS implemented. There are several parties there. The important one is the European Commission, where my unit is. The European Commission proposes legislation and oversees the implementation. And then the second side is the Council of the European Union and European Parliament. They co-legislate and revise the ETS rules. And then we have the member states that implement the system at national level. So this is a high overview of the governance. And which are the primary climate laws in the EU? I mean, all these parties are connected based on legal framework. On legal framework, how we get decisions, and this is called legislative. Now, actually, it is called ordinary legislative procedure. And then there are the rules how we implement, so the member states know what they do. And there are rules also for the obligations of the European Commission how to implement the system. So there is a big legal framework there. And there are the primary climate laws and the secondary climate laws. And which are the primary climate laws? They are the core legal acts that set the targets, establish the carbon mechanisms, and operationalize the EU's climate strategy. And I have here some examples of the primary climate laws. The very first one is the European Climate Law, which is the legal act that defines the climate neutrality by 2050, the 55% emission reduction target by 2030. That was in the same act. And then recently we adopted an amendment of the climate law that establishes a target of 90% emission reduction by 2040. And then it is another very important primary law, which is the Emission Trading System Directive. And in this directive, everything that we talk when we talk about ETS in EU comes from this directive. And all the secondary acts on the implementation, also they are related to this. It is a directive that delegates the Commission and the Member States to work on a proposal on a delegated or implemented regulation, etc., etc. Another law is the effort sharing regulation. Very important because it is about binding national targets for sectors not covered by ETS, transport, buildings, agriculture, waste, etc. And these are the targets for each member state. The LULUCF regulation that governs emissions and removals from forests and soils. The governance regulation, at some point, it was so difficult to adopt this regulation because it governs the Energy Union and climate action and requires member states to submit national energy and climate plans. And then the CO2 standards for vehicles, etc. So these are examples of how the system is governed in EU. And let's go now for the governance on a Thai ETS. How is it going to be implemented? The primary legal act should define the policy making and coordinating body. There should be something like this. It usually is an interdisciplinary working group which proposes secondary acts, strategic plans, action plans, etc. The primary legal act, if needed, delegates the ministries that can adopt the secondary legal acts, and there should be a level of flexibility and not follow the heavy legislative procedure for the primary climate act. Because, as my previous speakers mentioned, there is a need to adjust the system there is a need to introduce something new because of a pandemic, because of something, and therefore you need to have some kind of flexibility. Then the legal framework should define the public authorities that will implement the system. That means MRVA, registry, free allocation, auctioning or trading, and the scope, the compliance timeline, the MRV rules, the free allocation rules. And all this is the governance, the high overview of Thailand's ETS. And this is everything considered, it is considered a national level. So what about the international carbon market and how we can fit the international carbon market in a domestic ETS system? Why international integration matters? Because integrating Thai ETS with international carbon markets may enhance Thailand's global competitiveness, may attract international climate finance and low carbon investment, may support Thailand's net zero and climate commitments, may reduce the cost of emissions reductions, and may position Thailand within emerging regional and global carbon trading systems. And so about these carbon markets, they are becoming increasingly interconnected. How? Through cross-border carbon trading, international climate agreements. Thailand already has a couple, not a couple, I think, I don't remember the number of these. Supply chain decarbonization requirements, and for carbon border adjustment mechanisms. And the relevant international frameworks is, of course, Paris Agreement and UNFCCC. But what about the interconnection of the international integration means that the Thai ETS is designed to align with global carbon accounting standards and enable participation in international trading mechanisms, support interoperability. This is discussed, for example, in new working direction, let's say, on a coalition, open coalition, etc. But I wouldn't like to go more on this. Allow recognition of Tau carbon credits internationally. And there are some types of integration that trying to, because it is something new that we are discussing here. So trying to approach it, we can see that it is there are some types of integration like regulatory alignment. That means compatibility with international rules and standards, or market linkage. That means connecting Thailand's ETS with external carbon markets, or credit recognition, that allowing Thai-generated carbon credits to be used internationally, and financial integration, etc. So I would say that the most important thing in order to have an international integration to international carbon market, it is under the MRV. The international markets require confidence that the emissions data and carbon reductions are accurate, transparent, verifiable, consistent. And the key important requirements is to have standardized emissions reporting, third-party verification, digital registry systems. So you may know, I'm sorry, I don't know the participants of this training. You may know international standards, so reference like IPCC methodologies, ISO carbon accounting standards, and of course the Article 6 transparency requirements. About the integration, the integration could be through Article 6. Article 6, actually, it is designed to give this possibility. It could also be linking international and regional carbon markets. I mean, at some point, I don't know, theoretically I'm speaking, Southeast Asia or All Asia, they combine a regional carbon market. It could be in integration with voluntary carbon markets, I don't know. But there are risks. related to mitigation measures. And I'm pretty sure that in the previous presentation, somebody has mentioned that the EU ETS suffered from, because of these risks, suffered with the integration of credits from SERS from CDM into the ETS. In the future, most of the parties involved, apart, I suppose, I have never had, but I suppose industry, apart from industry, most of the parties involved involved in the EU ETS, they are very reluctant to introduce any international credits in the system. And as Zipin mentioned before, we have already a link. We have already been linked with Switzerland, and we are discussing now, and soon will be linked with UK ETS. Then how can we consider the ETS plus international credits in our linkages? So it seems from the technical expert side that it is difficult and a bit risky, not only challenging, not only challenging to introduce such a methodology, how to recognize these differences. So I would advise, can I advise? Am I at this level? No, perhaps I would just like to mention that to the Thailand's counterparts, that they should be really careful how they introduce the international carbon credits in their ETS, at least for the very beginning. But that's another discussion. I think I would like to stop here by saying a few words like a conclusion. International integration should be a strategic objective for Thai ETS because everybody is talking about this, so Thailand should not be out of these discussions. Alignment with global standards increases market credibility. Strong governance and MRV systems are important. I mentioned that governance as a first. I mention it now in the end. It is super important to know from the very beginning, no matter pilot phases or whatever phase, from the very beginning that you start the implementation in Thailand, you must know who does what, the roles, the institutional setup, the governance, how you, it should be defined in the primary act. Who gets the decision on the MRV rules. It cannot be at Prime Minister level to just get a decision on how to change one rule in the monitoring and reporting. So governance is super important. And the MRV also system. And the phased integration approach reduces implementation risks. I think it was mentioned by Homing also in his presentation. Phased staged integration approach always is better. And I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alini. Okay, is there any question? Okay, so yes.
ตอนแรกผมเข้าใจว่าคำว่า ETS เนี่ยมันคือสิ่งที่เหลือจาก Cap and Trade แล้วก็ไปขายกันทีนี้พอเมื่อกี้มี Article 6 ว่า ETS ไปลิงก์กับ Article 6 มันเป็นการข้ามพรมแดนจุดเนี่ยผมสับสนนิดนึงคือความเข้าใจเดิมคือ ETS คือสิ่งที่เชื่อมกับ Cap and Trade เราต้อง Cap ในประเทศก่อนเหลือเท่าไหร่ไปเทรดกันในตลาดเพื่อเป้าหมายให้ลดเนาะส่วนตลาดคาร์บอนเครดิตเป็นอีกตลาดหนึ่งไม่มาปนกับ ETS ใน Cap and Trade อันนี้คือความเข้าใจเดิมของผมทีนี้พอมันมี 6.2 ข้ามพรมแดนเนี่ยผมก็เลยงงว่า ETS มันไปเชื่อมอย่างนั้นแต่ผมไม่รู้ที่ประชุมคนอื่นเป็นยังไงนะแต่ว่าผมแยกระหว่าง Tax Cap and Trade ETS Carbon Pricing กับ Carbon Market เนี่ยมันมี3เครื่องมือพอมันข้ามพรมแดนตรงเนี้ยแล้วตลาดคาร์บอนเครดิตที่เรามีอีกอันหนึ่งมันก็จะ มันก็จะไม่ทำให้ตรงตลาดนั้นก็ไม่เกิด invisible hand ไม่ทำงานความเข้าใจผมตรงนี้ถูกต้องหรือผิดตรงไหนอาจารย์แก้ให้ผมหน่อย
Can you hear the question in Thai or can you hear it in English?
I can hear the question in Thai. I didn't manage to have the
Okay.
translation. I'm sorry.
Let me try to explain him first. The question, I will try to answer part of the question, but the one part that I couldn't answer is how can Article 6 involve linking of the ETS? And the Article 6 is about the carbon credit instead of the linking of ETS. Can you explain that part later? I'm going to try to explain the other part first. อย่างที่เข้าใจผมเห็นด้วยนะฮะก็คือตลาด ETS ซึ่งเป็น ETS สำหรับผมเนี่ย ETS กับ Cap and Trade คืออันเดียวกันนะใช่ไหมฮะส่วนคาร์บอนเครดิตเป็นตลาดอีกประเภทหนึ่งคาร์บอนเครดิตสามารถเอามาลิงก์กับ ETS ได้เพื่อที่จะมาช่วยทำให้ต้นทุนการลดก๊าซของคนที่ถูกบังคับใน ETS สามารถลดลงได้ถูกไหมฮะซึ่งที่ผ่านมา Article 6 ที่ผมเข้าใจมันก็จะเป็นคาร์บอนเครดิตใช่ตอนนี้ก็ทาง Irene เสนอว่าเราอาจจะสามารถลิงก์ ETS ได้ผ่าน Article 6 ซึ่งการลิงก์ในประเด็นหนึ่งก็คือการลิงก์ ETS สามารถทำได้ระหว่าง ETS หลายเจ้าทำได้มีความพยายามอยู่นะในการที่สองกลุ่มประเทศ EU กับประเทศอื่นเนี่ยลิงก์ต่างคนต่างมี ETS แล้วก็มาลิงก์หากันแต่ว่าการจะลิงก์ได้ก็คือระดับความเข้มข้นระดับความน่าเชื่อถือได้มันจะต้องอยู่ในระดับที่ใกล้เคียงกันถึงจะสามารถลิงก์ได้อันนั้นมีแต่ว่าผมยังไม่เคยได้ยินจนวันนี้ว่ามันมีการลิงก์โดยผ่าน Article 6 so if เดี๋ยวกันso for the non-ETS non-Article 6 part is that okay for everyone okay so we are now looking forward for you to explain us how the Article 6 could help us in the linking of ETS process.
In a country like for the EU, you know that our targets, reduction targets, do not go through ETS only. There is the effort sharing regulation. As I mentioned, each member state has a specific emission reduction target to achieve.
So you mean 6.2? You mean Article 6.2, right? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I said that in the EU, for example, we have the ETS emissions and non-ETS emissions. For the ETS emissions, we have a specific target by 2030, minus 62%, and for the by 2030 in total, minus 55%. So until by 2030, though, Article 6.2 and international credits do not matter at all because our new climate law introduced the possibility to use international carbon credits by 2030 for achieving our target by 2040. That means after 2035. So for the moment and until 2035, the international carbon credits cannot be used. I mean, it's not discussed to have. There is no possibility to use it in under ETS. But then after we are considering because of what I mentioned in the previous phase trading period 3, where we used shares units international credits until 2020 or 2021. And that undermined the achievements of ETS, of reduction of ETS emissions. We are very reluctant, and that's why we are considering this at the very end, let's say not very end, before the very end, in order to help the achievement of our targets, and in the case that the domestic achievements are not become very difficult, I mean, to achieve 90% of reduction of emissions. So what is the link? Your question was, what is the link of Article 6 with the ETS? Directly, there may be no link. I mean, we are still in the discussions, nothing has been decided yet. But I'm saying that the parties that they are involved in the EU ETS, they were there before, they are reluctant to use directly for the surrendering of the compliance of the compliance cycle of the obligations of the operators for the surrendering of allowances to use international credits. Therefore, under the ETS, this may not be possible. However, how will it be linked with our targets? It will be for the non-ETS emissions. So if there is, I don't know if the approach will be at national level. I don't know if the approach will be at EU level in total. Nobody knows. They are discussing this. There is going to be a proposal this summer in July for the revision of the ETS directive, one of the most primary climate laws. We are going to see there if there is anything that will indicate how we are going to use the international carbon credits. If not, there may be later in the amendment of the European climate law or other related regulations. I'm not aware. So it could be indirectly influencing, impacting the ETS, but not directly by surrendering, by using the international credits for surrendering emissions. I don't know if I replied your question.
I think you do. Yes. I'm gonna adjust her question a little bit to match the situation in the EU. Whether how so we understand that the EU ETS has linked with the Swiss ETS. How does the linking actually imply in practical terms? Is it still two separate ETS, but just a little bit of linking, or are they like incorporated into one big ETS?
Yes, thank you. No, we are having two different ETS. One is in Switzerland. There are different regulations that we follow, procedures, well, not different, but aligned. Yes, different, but aligned. What is linked is the registry. It means that an operator, a company, can buy allowances not only from the Swiss market, but also from the EU market and surrender allowances, and vice versa. An operator in one member state can buy allowances from the Swiss allowances and surrender in the EU registry. I mean, it's the linking is in the trading, let's say, but they have their competent authorities. they monitor the emissions, report the emissions in a compliance cycle. I don't know the details. I was never involved on this, but I can imagine that the way that they monitor, report, and verify the credibility of the system, the robustness, all the mechanisms that they have there, some auditing, some inspection, accreditation body that verifies the verifier, accredits the verifiers, and all these things have been already discussed in the beginning, and then also the price of the value of the allowances, etc. And that's why we were linked in the end.
Okay, I think that's good. It's quite clear. So, one more question. Okay.
ขอเรียกว่าอะไร I have concern about this like in Article 6 it seems like the how to say it's like seem like the at the beginning we set the standard that okay let me use like the student exam example it's like that we have the standard okay everyone have to pass to the next year at 80%, right? And when we have Article 6, it's like at the end we try to help every student pass to the next year, and we like reduce the grade from 80 to get A to get like 60 to get an A, because we don't want students left behind another year, because we kind of how to say care about their future, lose for another year learning. We want them to go together with their cohort. Yeah, so the Article 6 become like another, how to say, it's like a collection measure to let all the students pass in the year. But I don't feel it's like it's in the right way. That if we set the normal standard, okay, if you want to get A, you have to pass 80. But this one is like the exceptional to something to like not quite direct and not transparency to get everyone done, right? Because at the beginning, like when we talk about ETS compliance, it's like the compulsory cap and trade, and all the facility have to put their pressure, try to reduce greenhouse gases by themselves by like investing in the green development project. And if you cannot do that, you have to pay for the permit or fine or auctioning or whatever to the in the compliance standard. But when you allow like international CDM, international like certificate, what that is called, certified emission reduction units, which could come from several projects that have different standard or like different MRV or even different ISO, I don't know. Even you have like the, how to say, the main standard, but at the end, all the project may be not compliant on that handbook or that standard. And it turns out that you can use the lower grade, how to say, lower grade credit to fulfill your target. And if it become like that, it will, how to say, in the future the normal market or like the compliant market will not exist anymore, because everyone will not comply to the standard. We just okay, it's like the student cannot pass for the next year. We wait for the correction route and get the easier way to pass. Yeah, that's what I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay, but in the beginning of the system, usually there is a period that we call it grandfathering. That means that there is a free allocation of allowances to all the entities under the scope of the ETS. Therefore, they have the time to adjust. They don't need to go directly to the market and buy allowances in order to surrender. Or, I mean, even if I don't know how Thailand is going to implement it, but usually there is the calculation of free allocation based on historical emissions. And then for a certain period, like in ETS in EU, it was like 3 years, the very first period, 2005, 2007. They had plenty of allowances to surrender every year. Of course, there were some installations that they emitted more because they increased their production, and therefore they needed to buy from others that they produced less, and they had more allowances than what they needed. So there was a kind of trading already there. So in the beginning, all the students are good because they will not have needs. The grandfathering is based on this approach to help everybody pass every year and comply. The things become important from the moment that the ETS introduces stricter rules on the calculation of the free allocation and the adjustment. So the adjustment every year of the free allocation. So in our case, this happened with the benchmarking. So in your case, I don't know if you are thinking to introduce an energy intensity per installation. I would think that this is very difficult to do, and perhaps you should consider it again. But that's another thing. It's not for this discussion now. So the operators will need to go to the market much later when the benchmarks or the energy intensity thresholds limits have been set up, and you need to either reduce the emissions because you will do some kind of investment, or you just energy efficiency that you have never paid attention before as an operator, that you could do it in another way or follow a better available technique in order to produce the same with less energy. And then they will need to go to the market. I mean, if you have from the very beginning the possibility also to surrender using international credits, apart from the free allocation that you receive as based on grandfathering approach, wouldn't be too much. Are you considering this question goes for the second phase, after the pilot, when you really start to implement based on limits? And for those days, I think I suppose that you can use international credits in order to help the operators to find a cheaper way to comply. However, doesn't this defeats the objectives of the ETS, that you need to put a little bit of incentive to the operators to invest in order to decarbonize? I mean, it's like there should be always a balance. And the system, the important thing here, perhaps in our discussion, is to understand that the system should be adjustable. In the beginning, usually it is generous. And until everybody, all the parties, like not only the operators, that they have the obligation to comply, but also the public authorities, but also the independent bodies, verifiers, all the institutions involved, they need to learn I would say that in the beginning it's a learning period, and I don't think there is any risk to surrender because there will be free allocation. For later, when this period passes, then the system must balance as we mentioned also in the previous days, it must balance the ambitious targets, how you can achieve the targets, and how much you can put pressure to the industry. I don't know if I replied. I mean, we can discuss hours on this. The example from the EU ETS, it was that we suffered because we had the possibility to surrender. I mean, that was not only the only reason that we had at some point so many allowances in the system and the price went down even, well, not to zero. In 2013, it went down like €3 per unit. That was, I mean, because I think Leo mentioned before, yes, that it went to zero, but that was in phase one, that didn't matter. So it was in phase 3, 2013, if I remember well, or not 12, 13, yes, where the price went under €3 for one auctioning. There was a plethora of allowances in the market. And the reason was not only the CDM, the shares that they could be used for the compliance, but also financial crisis. We had some industries shut down. Yes, so there were reasons outside of the ETS that created so many allowances, and we had to introduce the market stability reserve, which actually saved the situation.
Okay, thank you, Irini. Maybe, because we're reaching the end of our training, but there's one question that's come in. This is a bit more general and a bit more around the laws. I think given, it's particularly relevant in Thailand, given that it already has the Climate Change Act, which kind of underpins the ETS here in place. So the question we've had coming in from someone online is, what happens if the EU fails to meet its greenhouse gas emission reduction targets linked to its ETS that are set out in European climate law?
By 2030, because we have the minus 55 by 2030, the minus 90 by 2040, and then it seems that we are in the path of succeeding. I will just mention that by 2020 we had the target to reduce 20% our emissions. And if there was a conditional target 30% if the international blah blah etc. But we succeeded by 2020 and we reduced 31% instead of 20%. I mean, we overdid it. So now we are in the minus 35%, no more. I'm sorry, I don't remember. And we need to succeed minus 55% by 2030. I remember that ETS emissions, they have been reduced by 50% already, and we need by 2030 to reduce 62%. So it seems it's 2026. It seems that we will manage to do it in the ETS. The total emissions, I don't remember where we are. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So it seems to it seems that we are in the path of succeeding these emissions. If not, these emission targets. If not, I don't know. I think we have removals. We have introduced. We must give more. We must pay attention more to the investment plans. Yes, something that is probably is going to be reintroduced now with the new ETS directive, I suppose.
Okay. Andreas, you're looking, did you want to compliment? Okay, Andreas is just going to compliment Irini.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello, Irini. Andreas Well. You mentioned the savings that we had in the ETS so far. And I think the last carbon market report says that we saved 50% against 2005 by August last year. But these savings have been primarily achieved in the energy sector, energy and heat. And it is also stated there and in the analysis of the German Emissions Trading Authority that we saw almost no reductions in heavy industry in 2013 to 18, and that since 2019 changes in emissions there are primarily driven by economic developments. So I think the achieving of the targets becomes even harder in the future, since the share of heavy industries is increasing. Could you elaborate a bit on that? What does that mean with regard to the implementation of the system, since our focus needs to shift a bit, not away from the energy sector, but more towards these problems that we have in industry?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, that's a very good question. The energy sector indeed is the sector that is driving, is driving the emission reductions. Indeed, it was the sector that we started from 2013 with zero free allocation, and we saw that because there was no carbon leakage risk. And we introduced this measure, and it was very good. And we saw significant reductions of emissions in this sector. This sector has even more potential to reduce emissions. And this is, let's say, something that it is not fair for the industry sector, because being all of them together in the ETS, which is the right thing to do. I don't mean that we should have different ETS for power sector and different for industry. But I think this sector, it has still more potential to reduce emissions. It is something that we see how to develop now an energy union in order to integrate in the system more of the renewable energy that is unfortunately produced but not saved. Or not consumed. The industry sector, however, the industry sector is difficult to decarbonize, because they need a lot of industry sector is difficult because they need long-term planning. And when we lost the good opportunity we had in phase 3. In phase 3, I had discussions with companies, and they said, will there be an ETS after 2020? So there was no credibility for the system. The system was not, it was established, we had all the legislation there, and because of the very low prices, as I mentioned, even 3 euros, 5 euros. It was like 16 when I started, when we started the auctioning. It was 16 euros, and then in less than a year, it went down to 5 euros. So you could see that the industry lost their opportunity to invest. Those days, which were better days than later with the pandemic and the too high energy prices. How are we? But okay, this is looking back. Looking back, we saw that some things were not perfect, and therefore we did not get the momentum to accelerate the decarbonization when the market was in a better situation. What about now, though? Apart from the innovation fund that we have, and we are trying to introduce investments there and help the decarbonization from this part with these projects. We think that it is necessary at some point to help industry to find the liquidity, let's say, to invest more on decarbonization. We are trying to introduce some measures in the free allocation rules. For example, we did it in the last revision with the introduction of the green hydrogen production. That means that these installations, they receive free allocation for the activity and not based on historical emissions, of course, but based on historical production. While before the legislative framework did not allow this. So there are some small, we give free allocation to substitutes, for example, in the cement sector, at a certain points as to try to incentivize, let's say, the sector to move, the production, the industry sector to move. Will it be enough, all these small measures that we are taking in the previous revision for the allocation period 26 to 30, will it be enough to reduce the emissions and achieve the target by 2030? I would say yes, it seems to me that it will be, because also free allocation is reduced. What you said is correct. However, we can see in the benchmarks that there are reductions. This is something that is going to be announced. I don't know when, but when I was working in this unit, from the things that I could see, I can say that the benchmarks will be reduced to the maximum 50% reduction. Many benchmarks. How is this going to be? Well, 50% perhaps not, but definitely most of the benchmarks will be reduced. Therefore, it seems that the 10% best installations, they found a way to produce the same products, the same quantity with less energy. Therefore, there is some possibility to achieve better. Perhaps they need some kind of help instead of, I don't know, in order to have some reassurance that they will receive help from the system in order to implement their investment plans. This is something that we have to see it in the next revision. What it seems difficult to me, it is to achieve targets after 2030. For me, until 2030, I think that the system will manage to achieve the targets with the rules that we have now. But after 2030, and it's difficult, and also it is difficult because free allocation at some point will stop. We have the CBAM. And while CBAM is phasing in, free allocation phases out. This is the difficult, let's say, period for me, and not what we are. Not until 2030.
Okay, I think that's a good place to stop, and a discussion that we can maybe continue at the next training. Perhaps for Shalaton.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Irini. Thank you for being patient as well. And yeah, definitely next time we hope to have you in person.
I thank you for giving me this opportunity to be there with you or here. and there with you. Yes, and next time I will be, I don't know, I will be better prepared, because I don't know. It seems that the fact that I was not there, it kept me like in a distance. So I don't know really how I could contribute better.
But I think you definitely did contribute, because I think you're so knowledgeable about each of the different areas. So I think you really balanced it nicely, because in each session we were kind of focusing on more specific things, and then you would come in afterwards and complement, kind of looking at it more holistically from the EU perspective. So I think it actually balanced things really nicely.
And I think the last thing that you share, the fact that our task is gonna be a lot more harder after 2030. I think that's important, and we all should keep that in mind.
There you go. Well, thank you again, Irini.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye.